out in the world, I'm out I'm out of my closet, right? I'm out in the world and I'm in life. I'm about 60% masked. So I'm not like all the way like some people into accepting and embracing the world. I am embracing the world. I'm just not sold on the fact that the pandemic is over. The mask wearing is over for some people, and being responsible uh, public health advocates is over for some people. Not for me though. I'm just willing to like go out in the world, but keep my mask on, keep my wash my hands. A lot of people have stopped washing their. Have you noticed that people have stopped washing their? I have not stopped washing my hands. Anyway, welcome to Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. We're usually on live at 2 p.m. Pacific, not because there's a live audience, but just because by doing it live, we're live, and we can say we're live, and we can feel a certain liveness, and it's like a no net kind of show that we're doing. And if you're a regular listener, because we have done 493 of these, it's not that I eschew the regular podcasting platforms because I don't like them. It's just that it's extra work. If people want to show up, they can come to @Emil Amok on Twitter. They can go on YouTube and watch Emil Amok 1 on YouTube. We're live there, and they can watch replays there, or they can watch replays on amok.com. There's all sorts of ways to do it, and actually, the fewer people who listen, the better, because then it makes it secretive. It makes it a secret thing, and we know how secret, how wonderful secrecy is, because the fact that no one knows what the indictment is against Donald Trump, what it's about. I mean, they think they know. It's been leaked, but for the most part, it's secret. It's sealed. And it's like Donald Trump, the indictment is under seal. That's what they say. That's the phrase. Or Donald Trump is under. I think of a large seal going arf arf arf. Because that's what seals sound like. If you get the right dialect, that's what they sound like. But I'm thinking of a large seal with Donald Trump underneath it. Yeah, that's the image I have in my mind. That Donald Trump with his hair. I mean, his hair is perfect, of course. It has to be perfect. But the seal is on top of his head because he's under seal. And there's the seal doing its thing. And we won't know until Tuesday. And so this is a great time for people to talk about the Trump indictment that they don't know about, because they can't say, oh, how do you know that? Well, from my sources here, from, all the text messages that I'm getting, they're telling me that this is the fact. Well, we do know this from reports, from reporters who are actually getting text messages from people. We know that the actual arraignment, you're indicted first. He was indicted Thursday. The arraignment is on Tuesday at 2:15. It's likely going to be Judge Juan Marchand, I believe is his name, and he's a Colombian, or Merchant. Juan Merchant. He's a Colombian immigrant, which sets up this great thing between Merchant, the no-nonsense immigrant judge. I believe he's on the New York Supreme Court, State Supreme Court. He heard the Trump business case, so he knows all about the background of Trump. He's familiar. He gets a case at 2:15. Trump is arraigned, enters a plea, and it's going to be that's the main event. It's Tuesday. So now, while everything's under seal, we can talk about it, and that's why I invited my friend, the political science professor, Asian American Studies, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, emeritus. That means he's done it. He's been at it so long that they said, hey, maybe you should take a break for a second. Now, this means that is a title of endearment. If you're emeritus, it means, hey, I've done it for 50 years. That's a feather in my cap, an emeritus feather. Anyway, Daniel Phil Gonzales, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzales, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. Hi, Dan.
Good afternoon. Welcome home. Welcome back for the big NYC.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it funny that I come home and it's like I'm like some kind of protective thing for Donald Trump. He doesn't get indicted. They say, "Oh, it could take weeks." That's why he was caught off by surprise. But I come back to California and then Trump gets indicted. So I
Sure.
I take part responsibility for it happening.
Well, on that matter, don't you find it curious that he jumped the gun and said, "I'm going to get indicted next Tuesday," right? Which didn't happen.
Mhm.
And
He
then
lied. He
when he
lied.
actually does get, well, sure.
Yeah.
Uh, he'll say, I got that information on advisement from a leak, right? In that department. So okay, well then the leaker lied, and you went ahead and
Well, he had
said,
nothing to go on, but he was look what he was trying to do. He was trying to rile up people, and then no one showed up. You know, he
I
was
well no, actually a couple of people did show up,
a
and
couple,
they
but
they had a cumulative IQ of 14.
not a lot of people showed up. Some people did,
They
but
had they interviewed a couple of them, and
yeah,
the one guy that was there in that I think he moved over to the Trump Tower later. But anyway, yeah, he
yeah,
said, "I'm here.
yeah,
I'm here."
well,
That's as far as the interview went because
yeah,
he was incapable of forming words greater than two syllables.
yeah. Well, I was surprised that uh, he had anyone there because in New York, I wrote this in my column on the Aldef blog, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. Uh, you know, when Trump started talking about protest, 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 there was no one. I mean, people were worried in New York about whether or not or how much longer it was going to be cold. If winter was over, they were more worried about it. And Trump is no favorite son. In this thing, I think he
I
got.
will ditto that. Every time that we were in New York, and twice we were there,
Mm,
uh, once when he was running and once when he was president,
mm.
and everybody said everybody in New York knows who he really is.
Yeah,
It's only outside of New York that people, fall for his doo doo.
yeah. Well, no one. I mean, there's at least 75% of the voters were against him in New York, and they're going to be they make up the grand jury, right? The 23 grand jurors,
Sure,
and they
and they're
make
going to
up.
ask for a change of venue, and they're not going to get it
Right,
because you know unless you, I don't know, somebody dumb enough to move the venue to the Midwest,
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah, Ohio or someplace like. Well,
Well, that's a good one,
yeah.
and
I
that's
mean,
close enough to New York. I mean,
yes,
it's almost bordering. It's
Jim
only one
Jordan
state away.
get into Jim Jordan's district. That would be considered by Republicans to be fair or justice, but
Yeah.
you know, but Asian Americans know what that's like when you move to a venue like change a venue to Cincinnati. I mean that did it for Vincent Chin when they
That
moved
absolutely.
the court from Detroit
Well,
to
that was the initial federal case,
yeah
but then it got uh, it got appealed and was remanded, and then they actually found some way to punish them by federal standards. But
yeah.
I don't think mom collected a cent.
No,
So
she didn't. I mean, she got
yeah,
a she got a civil award, but the culprit, Ronald Liebens, never paid it. So, all right,
that's
look,
right.
I'm sorry to bring up the Vincent Chin case, although I do want to bring up an AAPI kind of perspective on this whole Trump thing, and we should be happy that the guy who really perpetrated the whole China virus, Asian flu, the whole violent. He was the cheerleader of all that pandemic violence against Asian Americans. That he'll be coming to justice on other issues, not necessarily on the one that's near and dear to Asian Americans' hearts, but he will be accountable for for his actions on another case. And I guess that's one of the positive AAPI perspectives on this, that he is not going scot free on, in terms of accountability for his actions. They found something that at least would stick with this New York grand jury.
Yeah, um, I have mixed feelings about it all because there are so many Asians that were willing to give him a break, and actually who
Right.
voted for him, in 2016. And as
2020,
for my own ethnic community,
yeah, Filipinos,
uh,
my ethnic community too.
oh, that's right. Uh, I
I
kind of didn't want to bring it up because then will look overly biased, right, in one direction. But
Yeah.
yeah, there was an increase of 7%. I think it was
Mm,
or more. Actually,
yeah.
27. Yeah, no, it was 27% in 2016 of Filipino Americans voted for Trump, and then it was 34% in 2020. That's my recollection.
Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
know it was more, but it was still less than the Vietnamese who flocked to.
that makes it okay because then that means we're only number two.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough, right? That effectively 2 out of 5 Filipinos, right, voted for Trump.
Yeah.
But with Vietnamese, it was like 1 out of 4, right? It was more like that, or no, almost 1 out of 3.
Yeah.
So
A little,
it's
little
really
higher.
bad.
Well, so from an AAPI perspective, I mean, I think, and actually from a whole, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, Person of Color perspective, one should look at this. I mean, because I've had people say, "Oh, we don't care about Trump." What do we care? Well, we should all care about it because it shows that no matter how high up you are in the, demo, in the
Everybody's supposed to be the same. No
right.
one's above the law. We've heard that 5 million times.
Mhm.
Now the liberals and the Democrats and some independents are saying now Mr. Trump will be subject to the law and he will be entitled to due process
Mhm.
and all of the protections afforded him by the United States Constitution, which, ironically, I would add, he flouted, deliberately, and he said, that he would want to uh, get rid of the Constitution. He said he'd, throw the Constitution out.
Right. He wanted to be
So,
president forever, right?
well, the guy took an oath,
Yeah.
okay, and obviously it meant nothing to him, okay. And so the thing that bothers me is that the people who support him seem to also think nothing
Right.
of an oath to the Constitution, because even if they believe that this is all made up and that there are no real facts out there upon which this prosecution is based,
Mhm.
okay, they should at least understand that there seemed to be a majority concern, okay, a majority concern among everybody who are not Republicans, right, that something is wrong
Right.
with what this man has done. And so they really don't care. And I thought that was apparent when he made his famous remark about his relationship to women. You can grab them
Oh yeah.
and be fine. And people said, okay, that's permissible. Well, if any other presidential candidate said that, it would their campaign would have been over.
Well, it says this is the thing. Every time, and I've mentioned this to you before, every time he crosses a line and crosses a norm, you think, is this it? I turn to a Filipino friend and I'll say, is this it? Are you ready to quit him? And they just have never been able to do so. And now here's this historic indictment.
Well, what was their response? I know that it's anecdotal and it's one
Yeah.
person, but what was their
Well,
response?
the response was, let's see what happens. We like, because it was always, uh, they were always considering what the alternative was, and for them, if it wasn't Trump, they couldn't stand for a Democrat. They couldn't stand in 2016. They couldn't stand for Hillary.
And what were their rationale? What was their reasoning for not wanting to vote for a Democrat, any Democrat?
Uh, I just think it was their conservative values, which is the real ironic
What does
thing.
that
Because
mean?
well, the conservative values is the immorality of Donald Trump. Suddenly is appealing to them, or that it shows how weak.
Well, what does that mean in application to Hillary Clinton?
Well, I mean, they were so. We're talking.
The,
I'm
the
talking about
emails drove the email issue drove him over the edge, right?
right. I'm
That
talking.
was that was the moral and ethical, you
I
know,
I think it was
religious
that.
based position, right?
I think it was that, but I also think it was a kind of misogyny, right?
Yeah. No. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Well, I think that was it. I mean, it had nothing to do with emails. The emails was just the smoke.
Well, how do you explain Filipino women voting against her?
Well, that's the moral basis, the weak moral basis, and following their husbands.
Yeah, okay, so you're saying that some of the women in our own community buy into the misogyny,
I
or
think
some elements of it, at least.
yeah, I think they just want to they want to be with their winner. I mean, look, it boils down to how people viewed Congress, right? This is a long kind of criticism of Congress that I don't like Congress, but I like my congressman, or I like my congressman, but I or woman or congressperson, but I hate Congress. So in this case, I hate criminals, I hate lawbreakers, but I like our lawbreaker because he's our president. I mean, that's the kind of illogical logic that some people have used. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
And you
I've
see
heard
it
that.
enacted. Yeah, you
I've
see
heard
it
that from
enacted now.
every ethnic group. I've heard that from every ethnic
Yeah.
group except maybe African Americans. But I've heard it from every other ethnic group.
Well,
And,
yeah,
and,
but
and
because African Americans, the margin of people who like Trump is like really infinitesimal, right? It's like 95-5, 90-10,
well,
something
I
like
was thinking more in terms of how they rationalize their support for people. I will use a different word,
that. Mm.
who are really, rectal in their political, ideological, ethical, and moral positions.
Yeah,
And then they say, "Yeah, but he's our rectum. It's
yeah,
okay. It's
yeah.
okay. Oh yeah, you're right. He's a rectum, but he's our rectum."
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There's that loyalty to whatever, and this is the problem with the Republicans now, from Lindsey Graham to Jim Jordan.
he almost
I mean,
he was almost crying.
yeah,
He was tearful. You could see that he was. You see,
Lindsey Graham calling this like some kind of voodoo justice, and how poor Donald Trump,
Oh, that was racist too.
send him money, send
That's
Donald Trump.
that's
He needs to
racist too,
fight.
man. Was
Yeah.
that a reference to Mr. Bragg?
Well, we know that they talk about the animal,
Right, right.
the Soros financed animal.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I just think that it's
It
just
ain't funny to the extent that Jewish Americans are going to pay a price, right? That there was the last time that these kinds of issues pointed at the possibility of violence against Jewish Americans.
mm.
There were synagogue attacks
Oh
and
yeah,
mass killings.
yeah. I mean, I'm just surprised that very few Republicans are standing. I think Asa Hutchinson from Kansas. I think he's Kansas. He's come out, but against Trump, or at least for considering other people to be president, because he wants to be president, of course. So it's sort of
Sure,
conservative.
sure. I could see him winning a run.
Yeah, but uh, I you don't see very many others. I mean, from
They're scared of that element of their constituents that they know are Trumpers.
yeah,
It's as simple as that.
yeah,
See, Linda, my wife, asked me, How do you explain this in political structural terms?" And I said, "It's really easy. Gerrymandering. They gerrymandered the hell out of their states." And so that it's more likely they'll be able to win. And when they do that, they're stacking the Trumpers and
yeah,
concentrating them in their own constituency. Okay,
uh-huh,
so now they're caught. They can't do anything that's anti-Trump or too overly critical at all
mm,
because those people won't elect them.
yeah.
It's as simple as that. So they're caught in their own trap, right? They do gerrymandering with glee, and they've enjoyed the benefits of that. That's how they hold office, and now it holds them back from actually participating more fully in the political process.
Well, they can't
So
be honest, right? They can't, and they can't.
absolutely.
They are totally beholden to Trump. He's their guy. They because without him, they can't win, and with him, they can't win. So it's
Well,
like,
they don't know that yet.
oh yeah, they. Oh, excuse me, they don't. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they don't know that yet.
But
They could at least have hope.
yeah, but
That is,
they've kind of screwed themselves,
yes,
and
yes.
where they can't.
Well, how do you feel about? Okay, so we've gone far afield from the indictment, right? So
Right.
what I find one thing I find interesting is the number of potential charges because the
Mm.
rumor is,
Oh, 30 plus.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
more than 30 charges.
this is just for the insignificant business document.
The payment.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think they've got a really rich case. I think they've got a lot of. It might be, a bit too detailed for the public to really, you know,
Well,
pay
yeah,
attention
okay.
to. Not very sexy. Kind of like it's going to be, a dot
Yeah,
in the eyes
well, the
piece.
Republican senators and the people who are coming out to defend him say it's a rounding error in accounting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
all he did.
well,
Yeah,
this is
uh,
the thing. This is the thing about talking about it all now, right? I mean, as I said at the beginning, everything's under seal. So unless it's leaked, or unless reporters have sources, we're all just participating in this
I
pre.
I think Bragg has been. I think they've been really good. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
right, right.
when we hear now that it's over 30 potential charges, it's like whoa,
They
it's
got something. Yeah,
they could be shotgunning, which is not uncommon, right? So if he wrote other checks, right, or and it's that, see, what people don't understand is the Stormy Daniels payment is
Mhm.
just an entree. That's just the gate, right?
Right.
And
It-
so they got in through the gate, and then they have to do all of these investigations that could tie all of the other stuff that he did, including what he did when he was president, right?
right,
So
right.
they don't have to worry about the statute of limitations. And I hate, when lawyers, people who are members of the bar or at least trained in the law, right, say statute of limitation, it really, it's like rubbing sandpaper on my nose.
Well, it's out of
Come
respect for
on,
the
man,
great.
lawyer up for God's sake. It's statute.
Yeah,
It's a statute of
this
limitations,
this
please.
the statute of limitations would
Yeah, well,
be.
that's the Statute of Liberty right now.
Right, right, right. The statute of limitation. Yeah, yeah. The Lady Liberty.
And that's Lady Liberty, man. And right now she's got both hands over her crotch.
That's the
Ain't,
statute of
ain't
limitation.
no torch, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just find that the unsealing on Tuesday will be quite the show. The show will start now. Now we just have the pundits playing around right
Right,
now and
right.
suggesting a lot of different things. But you can also see what the Republicans are doing. There's between Lindsey Graham and Marjorie Taylor Greene. She
They're
was
destroying America.
yeah.
that's
Well,
that's a, that's an
I
absolute quote from Mr. Graham. They're destroying America. Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah, but I think that they are as they're as guilt. The Republicans are as guilty of destroying America by shedding some kind of or by putting the whole system into a whole different kind of light where there's distrust and they're fomenting this distrust that is not good for democracy. At this point, it would be great if some responsible Republicans came forward and said, well, look, the grand jury has spoken. Let's let the process continue, and let's see what the evidence is that the prosecutor and the grand jury found so compelling. I mean, that's really
What I don't. Okay, here's another problem I have. The Democrats aren't saying. It isn't. It is. I've been saying this for years. Okay, I haven't said it, I think, enough in conversation with you,
Mm,
and that is, the people keep saying that the district attorney or the prosecutors, whether they be at the federal or state level, right,
mhm,
can indict, and that's just not accurate.
mhm.
The reality is that it's the grand jury
All
that
right.
votes to indict, and then the DA or the prosecutor has to make the decision. And am I going to follow the directions of the grand jury, or are there reasons that I feel I shouldn't go forward with an indictment? Okay,
Right. Right.
that's the way
Right.
it works.
The prosecutor has some kind of gives some kind of guidance to the case, but
They have a
ultimately,
tremendous influence on the process because
right.
there's nobody else there. There's no defense counsel.
Right.
Witnesses cannot bring attorneys to represent them into the room.
Right.
They can be outside the room, and the witness can take a break and go find out whether or not they should claim the fifth on a given question. But that's about it.
Yeah. Ultimately, though, the whole point about the grand jury is that they are independent, and
Yeah, and it's
for the
people from the neighborhood,
yeah,
man.
and for the most part, they're secret.
There you go.
And
So they're
that has
protected.
always been the
Yeah,
issue with the
yes,
grand jury.
absolutely true.
Always been the and here's one thing I will say about my public school education, because I heard a friend of mine on MSNBC talk about AP history and how this is a great thing. You know, AP history students will always consider the indictment of Donald Trump as a key point in presidential history in the United States because it'll bring up a porn star and
If it,
illegal payments. But the thing about it wasn't it made me think about my AP history class and how dry it was to talk about the frontier theory in AP history class.
oh no.
But the class that really made a difference for me in my public
That's
education,
some old stuff, dude.
look,
That's
that's what they taught
well.
in
Wait a
AP
minute. No,
history.
you were well, yeah,
That's what they taught in
in the
AP
'70s,
history
right?
in the
Yeah.
70s. But the class that really made a difference, I think, and has kept giving the class that keeps or the gift that keeps on giving, right? Forensics
Okay,
and
there you go.
speech and debate,
Yeah,
because
no,
in
Was
my
very
year,
good.
right, my
Lowell was
year.
very very good. They went to the nationals
Oh, a lot.
a lot.
I went to. I barely made it to the state qualifying tournament. But the key, uh, uh, the key question during one of my years was: should the jury system be significantly changed? And those of you
Ooh,
who are NFLers, National Forensic Leaguers of a certain vintage, you'll know. Oh, yes, that was a speech and debate topic in I think in 1970, 71. Anyway, should the jury system be significantly changed? Such a rich topic because if you do your research, oh, you get into things like all the civil rights statutes, right? Brown, Plessy, you know, in terms of uh, discrimination in juries, you know, should the number of jurors be changed? And that was sort of like the basic question, you know, that people would bring up. But and should a jury system be significantly changed, or the jury system? The other issue that came up that the star debaters would bring up, the grand jury. What do you do with the
yeah,
grand
yeah.
jury? And what's wrong with the grand jury?
Is
And
it a star chamber?
yeah, right, right. And here's the thing, you know, now we see. I mean, grand juries meet all the time, and
Yep,
we
they
just don't
do.
know. And they don't just deal with these highfalutin cases that get public attention, but they deal with a lot of like
Basic crimes,
yeah, and it's like it
especially
really
especially white collar crimes.
right, but it is part of the system, and I think now I bet you see people starting to say, well, you know, is the grand jury does it really serve a purpose? I think that'll be the next step after the as the Trump stuff moves along because he's dealing with grand juries in the Georgia case, right?
Yep.
And he's dealing with grand juries in the federal case, in Florida.
Yeah, January 6th. Yeah,
Well, I mean, I think you will see the people start becoming more hip to grand juries, saying, "Wow, what is this thing called the grand jury?" You
right.
know, and who made them king? Well, this is the system, and they're
It's
not
in
king,
the Constitution.
right? They're
Quote.
just right. They're regular people, and I think the awareness of the grand jury, I think, is both a positive development because people say, "Wow, regular people do this," right? But then maybe it might encourage
Yeah,
people
but
to look.
The Republicans keep saying that this is a gross abuse of miscarriage of justice and abuse of power, and then the Democrats, not enough Democrats answer by saying, well, you ought to read the Constitution of the United States of America under
Right.
Article 1. You know, it's right there, and it says everybody gets subject to criminal prosecution and indictment. It's right there. Okay, the process is in the freaking Constitution, man.
Well,
So
yeah. I mean, if people bother to read it, yes, of course. But I'm just thinking that, boy, now all the Republicans can do is say, hey, look, we got a slim majority in the Congress. Oh, we're going to have these committees be super be go
yeah,
beyond.
and Jordan is just doing a great job. Well, how many committees does that guy control, man?
Well, I mean,
I think he's got 3 committees.
this is
You
part of
know,
the deal with he
and then you
must
got Comer.
yeah,
That
yeah. This is part of the
that
deal that he made with what's his
you
name?
know what? At least 4 or 5 of the people who are chairs of committees
Mhm.
were participants in supporting the January 6th activities.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
they would be subject to indictment when we get to that point. So that's going to be the fun part because if there is a conviction on any level, you know,
Mhm.
Mr. Trump is going to have to make a choice. Does he stand there and be heroic, or does he turn on all of the creeps that he feels failed him?
Yeah.
Because he's going to blame it on everybody else.
Oh
He's going
yeah,
to,
yeah.
you know,
We're this is this is what happens when you get more than
an
one person.
egomaniacal idiot, right?
They start finger pointing, and the blame starts being passed around, and then you see the house of cards that the Republicans have going for them, and it 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 falls
It's a
apart.
house of it's a house of used tissue paper.
Yeah,
It ain't cards. It ain't cards.
it is it's funny though. It's going to take a while. I mean, the process
Uh,
is going to go on, and all they can do right now is try to malign Alvin Bragg, try to malign the process, try to sow this distrust, which is really,
you
th-
can't get a fair grand jury result in New York. It's
yeah,
it's New York, and it's those New York people.
yeah, right. Oh yeah, yeah.
You
And
know,
so we're gonna just hope that
only one place worse, and I'm
where's that?
sitting there right now.
Oh,
It's called San
San
Francisco.
Francisco. Right. Oh, it's Pelosiville. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Pelosiville. Well, see,
That's
this
right.
is what we have to hope for. We have to hope for the enough voices out there to shout down the um, the examples of propaganda that are being let out by the right, and of course they use it to fundraise, and in the short term they think
Yeah,
they
Taylor Green went right out and said, "So
yeah,
send money." I mean, it's just really gross, man. It's her name should be changed to Marjorie Taylor Gross,
yeah.
because
Well,
it's really bad.
it's
He needs
this
your money. Send money.
this is the thing, they are so blunt because people don't get the nuance. People don't. They want the truth direct, and unfortunately, uh, it sounds ridiculous because in a more nuanced time where people with grace were the politicians, you would see people talking about this in more measured tones, and you wouldn't see people going, crazy on cable. But now we're on cable. Now we're on, and people are out there with this fiery rhetoric, and we've gotten used to it because the leader was Trump himself, and he sets the tone and the behavior.
We gotta write a comment. Marjorie Taylor Greed. That's
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah,
good because you only have to change one consonant. That's cool. I like it.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing. He's getting the money. But I understand. Well, I don't know, how it's going to be
I
for the
don't think he's
duration.
going to get that much money. He's his every time they ask for money, it's a lesser amount than he got the last time around. So you know, we'll see what happens. This is going to be fun. I mean, I hate to say that I'm going to enjoy this, but uh, it's the uncertainty, right,
Mm.
of the outcome at this point that makes this whole process enjoyable to me.
Yeah.
I'm, yeah.
Well, we talked about this a week ago. We said it's good that New York's going first because it's a little more graspable in some ways, and so because some people think it's so insignificant, but it probably isn't. If there's 30
No,
charges,
the biggest thing is the indictment itself,
right?
because it breaks the barrier, right? Everybody has been voicing it the issue in terms of whether or not the president can be indicted or a former president can be indicted,
Right.
right?
Right.
Now people are reviewing the Nixon situation,
And
and
they're
people
saying,
are saying, in hindsight, remember when that happened. Once again, I have to reflect on law school.
mhm,
It was our first week orientation for first year,
mhm.
okay, in August of '74, and somebody in the line, trying to get to the damn coffee machine. Somebody in the line said, there's no way this guy's going to be able to avoid, right, being impeached, okay, or being prosecuted if he's out of office. And there's no way. And one guy said, there's no way that the pardon can be issued, because I said, you're not watching the ball, right?
Mm.
When they forced Agnew to resign, that was because he was a dirty bird. Why would they want to force him to resign? So they can put a Mr. Clean that you never heard of, okay,
Gerald Ford.
into the office, and then exercise the pardon. And everybody said, now remember, I'm alone in this.
So
Everybody
you
said
you
there
thought,
is no precedent.
yeah.
There is no precedent for this. And I said, exactly how do you think precedents happen? This will be the precedent. Okay. That was one of my first days in law school. And that reputation stayed with me all the way to the last day
So,
in law school.
so
That
you
was just the beginning.
so it was just your insight that Gerald Ford was being used.
There's a reason for all of that. And they wanted to see, both Republicans and Democrats wanted that thing to end. They were
Right.
willing, the Democrats and
Ah,
Republicans were willing to let Nixon off the hook, because when you start big investigations like that, you
mhm.
get eager young lawyers running around turning over rocks left and right. And people were dirty as hell on both sides.
Yes, I mean that's the thing. There was a kind of a wink, wink. We're in this together kind of fraternity
Yes.
on the part of both Republicans and Democrats.
This is the Vietnam era. Do you
Right.
know how much dirt there was going on with the
Right.
games being played?
Right. Right. Okay. No, I buy that. So he and Gerald Ford. I think they were bringing out some interviews he did with Larry King on television the last couple last few hours, and he has much said that you know I need to I need to think about America. I need to think about governing and keeping the country together. This is the difference between Ford and pardoning Nixon and the way things are now when the Democrats want to hold Trump accountable, but now the Republicans who've done all they can to divide the country, they want to point to the divisive argument saying, "Oh, look, the Democrats are being divisive about, you know, control democracy." Which is
Yeah.
which is the ironic thing,
Well,
right?
see, what you have to do, all you have to do is substitute the word principled
Mm.
for divisive, and it works.
Oh,
Okay? It works. Okay?
so yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you want to be principled, who's being principled here? Oh, the Democrats. I think.
That's the problem. Their problem is they think all you have to do is demonstrate the fact that you're holding to the law and that you're following the basic principles upon which society was founded, and everybody's supposed to get it. They're all supposed to say, yeah, yeah, they're right, and then they're supposed to support you. They don't know how to fight. They
Yeah.
they
Well, that's
go
the
they
thing.
go to a knife fight with a rubber band.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, yeah,
that is the thing. We are at a point. We're still at a point where, hey, this is right. So aren't you going to give in now? And they don't give in. They
no,
they're
no,
like,
you really have to drop the hammer. You really have to hit them hard.
well, isn't indicting a president, a former sitting
It's a
president,
good one. It's a
that's
good start.
hitting hard?
It's a
But
good start. It's a good start, but they got to start indicting. Guess who? They got to indict other members of Congress.
yeah, yeah. Well, this is, I think, an eye opener for people who don't pay attention and just assume, oh, those, you know, uh, it's representative government. We got those people in there. We voted them in. Let them do their job. No, I mean, because
They are doing their job. They're doing a job on you.
yeah, you got to be. This is where the public has to hold everyone in the process accountable, so that the Democrats will continue to do their job at a higher level, and continue to call out the Republicans who don't see that, how they're destroying our democracy by fighting it.
I think they know there's a risk. I think they do see it. I think they know, but they only assign it risk status. They don't see it as actual destruction occurring, and they don't see it as affecting them in the short run.
Yeah.
Okay, because I am hoping that the Democrats don't do something stupid between now and November 2024. Okay, because they will have both houses again. Okay,
Well, they have the high ground unless they do something stupid.
it was really stupid, and
Uh,
they got the high ground, and they got Biden. Okay, so I'm cheering Mr. Trump on. I hope he hangs in there. I hope that
yeah.
because if he is convicted, and then if there are other there are going to be other pending indictments, and
Mhm.
if he's indicted even one more time, right? It's going to take more than a year for the process to be undertaken and complete.
He won't have time to be president.
Yeah.
I'd love to be president. I'd love to be your guy, but
But I'm kind of busy.
I've got these criminal matters to take care of. I can't build up more criminal things.
In a
Sorry.
private conversation with another person who's a mutual a
Yeah.
mutual friend of ours,
Yeah.
I said it's got to be 2.5 years ago, but
Yeah.
I said it's really hard to run a campaign from jail.
Yeah.
You know,
It is. It is. I mean, already you start to see the cartoons coming out.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
the
right.
New Yorker had one saying, "Oh, Trump behind bars," and the prison guard says to Trump, "Here's the presidential suite," and it's like, it's behind bars and it's drab looking. I like this. I like the fact that we're in this comment zone where everything's under seal, so
Yeah,
no one really
yeah,
knows what's going on. So we,
that's right.
so we
That's
can
right.
talk. And I'm
So the
thinking,
more the Republicans keep talking stuff, right,
yeah,
the dumber they're going to look when
yeah,
that stuff is put out, and they keep doing it.
yeah.
So I'm saying, yeah, keep doing it.
Once they see this litany, this 30, count indictment, and they say, "Oh my God, oh, he did that. Oh my, well, they,
So wait, what's the basis of that? Yeah, but see, for the Trump supporters, right? For the for the loyal,
yeah,
it's all fake news. They
yeah,
just dismiss everything.
yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
I got asked, what about these people? And I said, I don't have any responsibility for those people.
yeah.
I don't have any response. They're gonna take those positions regardless of whatever you show them. You're wasting your time if you want to make an argument against people who are completely immobile.
Well,
Okay.
we just have to hope that the process goes, as that it does not get
That's
derailed
it.
by externals, that we'll see the evidence, we'll see how the evidence is argued, and we'll just let the process happen, and let's hope that there are no it's hard for me to imagine a January 6th sort of thing in New York, considering NYPD,
Oh man.
yeah, considering the way those buildings are in downtown, I feel like they were neighbors because I was staying in the East Village, which is not far away from Lower Manhattan, but it's more walkable than say the
It's
Upper East
walkable, yeah.
or the Upper West Side. But I I don't think we're going to have a January 6th sort of thing. I think it is going to be a circus, but if it is, it's because Trump makes it one.
Yeah, I
Because
don't think it's going to be in New York. I think there could be a January 6th type
oh,
thing in and around DC, and I think there could be local local attacks.
local January, yeah, yeah,
You know,
that might like little
and
mini.
it's not going to be red state attacks. It's not going to be red state populations attacking red state capitals. It's going to be red state, uh, uh, well, Trump voters, right,
Mhm.
attacking in purple states, particularly when they're Democrats in leadership.
Oh, so like a
That's gonna that yeah, there's
Michigan,
gonna be,
yeah,
the Whitmer thing,
yeah.
and also that there's a danger of that on the West Coast.
Right. Well, this is the thing. It's not going to be. I mean, if the focus is all on New York, good, but ultimately short-sighted because, as you say, all these other areas are kind of prime targets
Yep.
for something, and uh, if
We're where the devil, what are the people are using the term evil now in connection with and they're starting to use, Christian language. Uh,
well,
you know,
this is a problem because they they're pushed into a corner. So who knows what they're going to do, and who knows what
Well, they're not going to do anything about. Remember that statement made by the one of the congressmen from Tennessee? Not going to do anything about. You can't legislate evil. What the hell was he saying? That was his exact words. And I said, "Well, no, you've actually done that. You
well,
have done that. You got open carry, man. You
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know who the good people are, who the bad. You don't know who's crazy. All you know is they get to roll. They get to roll a loaded gun and walk around in public with it. That's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Doesn't it make you want to go to Nashville right now and just have a
Nashville
good time?
or Texas. Now, Nashville, funny you should mention Nashville. Because I do want to touch on that. That's one other big story this weekend or this week rather, and they're still trying to figure out what's going on. And Republicans, of course, have they're trying to make it into some kind of crusade against an anti-trans thing, which I don't know. No one. I mean, to look at the situation in Nashville and say, well, this is what happens when trans people have guns. Well, I mean, look at all the white people who have had guns and all the shootings they
Oh
perpetrated,
boy.
and we
You
should
knew
be
it was
worried.
coming. You knew it was coming.
Yeah,
I mean, it's too easy a thing to say,
yeah,
look how weird trans people are. I mean, they're already imbalanced, right? And
yeah,
so that's the only reason they have these kinds of issues, right? And
yeah,
so yeah, we got to do better mental health, and then that makes it wide open, right, for criticizing LGBTQ and trans
right.
particularly.
Yeah, I just think that that's more troubling. It's almost too bad that the Trump thing is kind of
So do you
swallowed.
think it's coming? If you're gay, you can't have a gun?
No, I don't know if it's that, but I think it's we're going to start seeing more of that kind of anti-trans, anti-gay backlash, and using Nashville as a justification,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's sad. That's sad. That shouldn't happen. Um,
Well, yeah, but it's
I don't know. I
predictable.
don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is there, but they're trying to make it into some kind of moral crusade because it's against God. It's against it's all that. This is why uh, they kind of have they've disqualified themselves to be participants as leaders in a democracy. As
Now
long as
we have to come out with a new academic statement, right? That's well established that says John the disciple was gay.
John was gay, I
You-
didn't know that.
Well, I don't know either, but I'm saying we got to go. We got to say something. It
I
wasn't John and James, his little brother.
So John 3:16 was John and 3 16-year-old boys. Is that it?
Oh man, I wasn't even gonna dive. I was gonna dive below the belt and do the adolescent thing, man. You know,
Oh
right
well,
away.
but that's a
But you're
QAnon thing.
right, though. You're right. That's how it was going in the 50s and 60s, right?
Yeah, but also that's also a QAnon thing with all this,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
grooming pedophiles.
That's right.
I mean,
If
the
if if you're gay, you're a groomer. You
yeah
know, if you're
the
if you're a lesbian, you're a groomer.
the right has really gone that path, and I think
Yeah, but they have a willing audience. They have willing constituents.
right. I know
Okay,
this
and
is
the people are mean. They got guns. They got weapons.
right. So we could say it in jest, but they take it for real, and then they go overboard, and
Well,
this
when
is this
when
is the
they go to
crisis,
church and they're hearing it
right?
from you know,
This is the crisis in our country, and it's and but it puts into perspective what Donald Trump represents, because he's one man, but uh, someone wrote, Trump goes, but Trumpism stays, and
that's true. That's accurate.
that's a problem. That's a problem because we're going to see a more virulent, stronger Trumpism kind of leader emerge if Trump falls. Because I
I
think,
think even the term Trumpism will fade, right? People will not want to be associated with it
oh,
because it'll
yeah,
be seen as it'll take time. It may take 10, 15, maybe a
right,
whole generation,
yeah,
but it'll fade.
yeah,
But
forget
whatever
Trumpism.
it represents, right, will continue because it's always been present in American society.
Right,
That element is always present in American society, and it's easier for them to organize now
yeah.
and to because of social media.
Right. And
You
and
know,
and and social media in terms of how it gathers people and how it lies to people for you. It
it does that,
spreads
and
the
and then
propaganda.
and then you have
Spreads,
elements of the actual media that pretends to be journalistic. The
well, it's yeah.
propagandism.
Opinion is sort of like the pauper's journalism, right? It's really kind of glorified gossip,
Well, but
unless
that's not what the clowns on Fox are doing. They're
I
not just doing opinion. Yeah, there's
yeah,
that trio in the morning and in the evening that yeah they do opinion, but people Tucker Carlson is stating fact or what
well,
he says is fact.
right, and it is more propaganda, but it also is opinion. But here's the thing: if you report opinion, uh, that's sort of the journalistic way to do it. But it also shows that you can have a really clear perspective and viewpoint from either the left or the right, and that's the danger when you have only one silo. When you rely on just one silo for news instead of a multiple number of sources, because then you're just hearing, if you people who like Tucker Carlson's opinion will just feed on that and live off of that, and that gospel truth. But how about the people who uh, prefer a left or progressive kind of opinion? You're not going to hear that on Tucker Carlson. That's a problem with social media and
You
Fox.
you rarely hear it at all
Yeah.
on Fox at all on Fox satellite cable. You rarely hear a moderate or liberal opinion.
Oh, you're not going to hear a liberal opinion. No. I mean,
They have people on and they try to
yeah,
challenge them and then they get their ass kicked.
yeah, yeah. Well,
And they can't have it on because they get their ass kicked. I mean, geez, remember
yeah.
the last time we had that person on?
Yeah,
But
the
anyway,
token liberal. Well, I guess Juan Williams is still there, and Alan Colmes has passed on. Um, there was a couple of people from NPR I knew who were always on Fox, but it's I think Mara Eliason is still shows up from time to time, but I don't watch Fox. I do see right wing media just to see what ridiculousness they're they're selling now, and boy, they're strong on the anti-trans.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
While I don't watch Fox, what I do is I'll put Fox in, and then I'll put a colon, and then a topic.
mhm,
So Fox, and then Fox News, LGBTQQ,
Yeah.
right? And then you get a whole list of statements
But
and
yeah,
references to YouTube, you know.
yeah. Well, this is scary. And to go back to what we're talking about, Gerald Ford, right, not indicting because he wanted to preserve the country's integrity or sense of itself, because this is going to have some repercussions.
Oh
This
yeah, big time.
and we're because Trump is still he still thinks he has a fighting chance, and so he's going to do what he will.
Well,
And
don't you want him to think he's got a
oh
fighting
yeah,
chance?
well, it's
Because I want him to be the standard bearer for the Republican Party.
I think I think it's I think we need more more rational Republicans to come forward and say
Absolutely, we need that.
this
But
is
at the
enough.
same time, if they're not willing to do that at this point, and yeah, I don't think they're gonna. That's gonna change. I don't think it's gonna change between now and November 24.
Yeah. Well, look at what might happen. We'll get the perp. Well, maybe not the perp walk, but maybe we'll certainly get
Nah,
the
they're gonna. Yeah, they're gonna let him off easy. I mean, he will get booked privately. He will get his picture taken privately. You
but
know,
he will release the NFT of the picture. It will
and
release
make
something.
money off it. He'll
Yeah,
say,
right.
"Okay,
It's the Trump
$50, you get an NFT."
it's a Trump
But
merch.
yeah,
But sorry. So the New York thing happens. I think Georgia happens. I think we have at least the documents case and maybe January 6th. So there's three more coming down the pike. Uh, I I think he's going to be busy. He won't be able to. But who comes forward? See, that's
excuse
the
me.
thing. Who
Yeah,
comes
oh
forward?
yeah.
And I don't see anyone with the guts to say, "All right, move aside, Trump. It's me. I'm going to do it." I don't see anyone yet. But
Well, DeSantis is, it's really interesting to see what's happening with him in the polls.
yeah,
But he has stopped doing aggressive, right, activities like banning anything having to do with black studies and anything having to do with sexuality and all the rest of that stuff. I don't know. I can't remember the name of the person that I saw on MSNBC. It was a conservative Republican, and he said, "This the it's not. They're not being banned. These books aren't being banned because you can still go to the store and get them. You can still order them on Amazon,
they're
so
not
they're
in the
not banned."
curriculum. Is that it? They're not being
Yeah.
taught.
So yeah, they're only not being used in schools, so they're not really banned. That's his distinction.
So you got the bully who is like the place where people read books, schools. They can't.
Libraries.
Yeah, they can't access them there. They can't access them when it's a matter of the government having some kind of control. Public libraries, public schools.
Yeah,
However, commerce, you can
they're
buy it all you
prosecuting.
want.
They're prosecuting librarians.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
forcing people in local jurisdictions, people on the school boards are going after librarians for libraries that are off campus, the public libraries.
yeah,
So, now people, so the librarians are voluntarily pulling books off the shelves.
yeah.
So to protect their own freaking jobs.
All right. So
Isn't it
this is
wonderful?
yeah, so whoever
Doesn't it make you
replaces,
want to go to Florida and have a good time?
no, I no, I crossed Florida off my list years ago. I
Okay.
used to. I was once curious about Florida, and I thought, oh, too palmy, balmy, too muggy, and then too many tornadoes now, or
Oh yeah,
not tornadoes, too many
hurricanes,
hurricanes.
hurricanes.
Yeah, and so I'm.
Well, northern Florida, yeah, they get tornadoes.
Yeah, I mean, we have atmospheric rivers in California. We don't have
That's
tornadoes
right, and earthquakes,
and earthquakes. Yeah,
and we get forest fires.
and for
So don't come here.
yeah, and we have
Stay away,
pestilence. We have pestilence.
stay away. Too many vineyards.
Yeah, too many
Yeah.
Kevin McCarthy's. You
Too much. Snow and fresh water. Stay away.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm looking forward to Tuesday. Let's see what happens to Donald Trump. And let's move on to
It's gonna be a fun ride.
let's move on to this other issue. Harvard admissions came down this week, and it's surprising. They admitted just 3.41% of applicants to the class of 2027, which, you look at a graph. I know you don't like the graph that the Harvard Crimson used.
It's terrible.
Yeah, but it does say the real problem. The real problem isn't the real problem is the number of admits. The people admit that they admit has stayed the same, roughly around 2,000 each year for the last 10, 20. I mean, it's always been this is how big the class is going to be. And that stayed steady. The only thing that has gone up has been the number of applicants to Harvard. I mean, I don't think they ever had 50,000 applicants to Harvard, except the last 3 years it's been over 50,000, over 60 in 1 year, the year before. I mean, that's the explosion. Too many people want to get in. If they stopped applying, we wouldn't have a problem with admissions, because you get a 3.4 admissions rate. You're not admitting anybody.
That's right.
Does somebody have a right to, a claim of discrimination? I mean, there's got to be some straight A students who feel like they've been discriminated against, and they're not necessarily Asian, right? What do you think? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just
You know, I just realized why I was fixated on understanding 3.41. And it's because as early as the 1960s, before the expansion of the UC system,
Mhm,
people were complaining that my kid is scoring in the above the 90th percentile, and they're not being let into the UC schools.
mhm,
And so I asked counselors in two different schools. They were SI, where I was going to school, and Lowell. And I said, "What is really going on?" And they said, "Well, in practical terms, they're only letting in the top 4%."
mhm.
This was back in the 1960s, man.
Right, and that goes to my point that they've always let in the same amount,
Yes,
the same, because that's never increased. So it's almost like a discrimination case against Harvard, unless you have something that's de facto discriminatory, like we don't like Chinese, we don't like Asians, we're not letting them in. But clearly, if you've got a class, and this is the other headline, the class of 2027 is 30% Asian, 29.9%.
yeah,
That
yeah,
that doesn't sound like discrimination.
no, no.
So,
And
I mean,
so, yeah, that affirmative action complaint, right, where the plaintiffs are Chinese American.
right. I mean, it doesn't sound logical, but they're gonna win,
Yeah,
because people will buy the fact that, oh, this guy has straight A's and didn't get in, he was Asian, and they'll justify it in some way that race shouldn't be used. And who knows what's going to happen, but I think it's going to backfire, because I think you're going to have, maybe, if you can't use race and it's all blind, you might have, you got a class that's 30% Asian. Maybe they're going to have like a
it'll go
50.
down.
Do you think it's going to go down?
It'll go down.
Not go up?
It'll go down. Well, it depends on whether or not if they use the GPA standard, right, and the activism criteria. That they're involved in certain kinds of activities, including sports.
Right.
And ROTC, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it was only what 25, 30 years ago that they were using active participation in ROTC in public universities like UC.
ROTC,
Yeah,
ROTC. Yeah.
as they were using that as a criteria because they thought that not that many Asians were.
Oh, I didn't see it as an anti-Asian thing. I thought that, you would just do it to see, to get military types.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
but but
People were inclined.
yeah, I think if they go
Well,
colorblind,
they didn't take a good look at Lowell, did
yeah.
they?
Well, I know Razzi was very big at Lowell, but
Galileo,
yeah,
Balboa. I'm just talking about local schools.
I know Chinese, Filipinos, they love to twirl those guns. I
Yeah.
didn't know about shooting them. But
Don't forget the women.
oh yeah, the women they like to do the drill team,
Yep.
and they like that. Look, I think that if uh, I think it's misguided. I always thought the affirmative action case was misguided because it was based on the grievances of Asian Americans that they were discriminated against. They're not discriminated against. No more than any other 4.0 person is discriminated against. Uh, Race is just one thing. It may be a subjective process, admissions process. It wasn't clear, and they brought up all these other things like some kind of personality thing about Asians. And
Yeah. I think the logic for the complaint is based on circumstances that existed 30 and 40 years ago.
yeah,
You
that
know, when they were all of the big universities, Ivy League or otherwise, but the big public universities, the vast majority of them were starting to move towards criteria that put an emphasis on things like athletics, participation in athletics, and away from simply academic standards. So you raised, forensics as an issue, and they were thinking that forensics might be a way of eliminating some of the Asians because the
see,
immigrants are so bad at English, that kind of thing.
did they say that you didn't hear people say that, or
They
was
didn't say it out loud,
yeah,
but that was one of the things that they thought they could get away with.
yeah,
The same thing was true with the ROTC and military.
yeah,
People having an interest in joining the military.
yeah,
That they would try to look for things that culturally. I mean, this was at the same time that was happening. Uh, uh, Asian American scientists in NASA were beginning to sue NASA because they weren't advancing beyond the glass ceiling.
mhm.
Remember that? And
I
they were starting, and the arguments that people were making against them was, it's you guys are too culturally different.
yeah.
What the hell is that? What does that mean?
That now that's discrimination. See, I think. All right. So you're saying that those sort of things happen.
30 and 40 years ago,
Right.
and now the Chinese Americans are making those kinds of that kind of logic that would have applied back then today, when we've had 30 years of increasing representation at the biggest universities in the country.
See, I think that on the face of those rising numbers, that they don't have a case, but they're selling the case, and the case is being embraced by whites who feel aggrieved because the white numbers are going down. Not
Yeah,
that
well, the funny part is the white numbers will still keep going down.
yeah, the white numbers will keep going down, and that's what. But you were saying that the Asian numbers will go down. I
They
don't think.
could,
I
they
think that
could go down.
I think the Asian. I think if they go to some kind of colorblind system, and I think they're going to have to go back to that code. Well, who's playing volleyball? Not
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, or we'll have to go to look at the see. I I I think if they go to colorblind and people just go on grades and you know
Well, there's going to be social criteria. There's going to be social criteria to balance out against the possibility of an experience with racism and racial discrimination, right?
yeah, there's got to be see. I think you got to go to some kind of component where this is why this idea that you have a set of criteria, race being one, not the only one. How can you say that's discriminatory? I mean that's the existing law. But now we're going to have to rejigger it and come up with a new way to be fair. And I don't know how you can be fair if you always admit the same number of people, 2,000, a year. I mean, according to this one graph.
Well,
And
I did 3.41 times 50,000, and I came up with 1705, I think.
17 of all right. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, look,
Well, you said you were close enough. I mean, you said
yeah,
a couple of thousand, so
yeah,
yeah.
it varies from year to year, but you look at that graph number and or the graph, and it's more consistent than the actual number of applicants, which has gone as high as over 60,000
Right.
in the last couple of years, or
Right.
50 to 60,000. So you're not going to solve the problem. The only way you're going to solve the problem is if you limit the applicants. How do you do that?
Right.
We've made it like a lottery. Like,
What's the
oh
screen? Yeah, what is the screen going to be? I don't know. Remember they were talking about a lottery for Lowell,
yeah,
and
well,
that was one of the reasons that those
I
the
don't mean
three
a
people were
lottery.
recalled.
I don't mean a lottery in that way. I mean people are. It's turned into a kind of de facto lottery in the sense that people with no shot of getting in apply and they end up getting rejected. I mean, in the class of 2006, for example, only barely 20,000 people applied. Now it's like three times the applicants
Yeah.
in 20 years and a generation. Now everyone thinks, oh, I have a right to go to Harvard. I can, or they'll say, if not me, then who? Or why not me? And they'll apply even though they have no right or then they have no chance. But it's like a lottery in a way. So they've turned it into a lottery, which that's not Harvard's problem. But how do you say, look, I'm going to keep you from applying? You can't say I'm going to keep you from applying, or you can't like raise the application fee so people don't apply. But because it's easy to apply, people say, what the hell? I'm going to apply to San Diego State because they have a good basketball team, and I'm going to apply to Harvard because what the hell? And then they get rejected and go to San Diego State or something. I don't know. I just think that a lot of the problems of why we see uh, discrimination is because there's a lot of people to discriminate against. There's a lot of people who don't deserve to go to Harvard. You're going to have a lot of people who are discriminated against legally, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you got six, I mean, there is legal discrimination, right?
That's right.
I mean,
There is.
and so I would say that getting rejected from Harvard, if you have a kid who applied to Harvard and got rejected, don't consider a lawsuit. Consider it legal discrimination. You didn't belong.
Yeah, here's another article that says it was Harvard College accepts 1,968 people, 1,968 people to the class of 2025. So you were closer
Yeah. Well,
to the reality.
this is the class of 2027 this year. This year, yeah, the class of 27 is 1,942, and let's see, accepted students. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're right. I see.
yeah. The acceptances are all like, if you
2027.
just look at the graph, the green bar never varies. It's all the same. So it's like between 1,800 to 2,000. So the
Right.
problem really is resources. You know, Harvard is discriminatory because they don't have more Harvard. I mean, really. I mean,
Well, no, I'm laughing, but it parallels the UC system's problem, right? And
yeah.
they resolved that problem in two ways.
How's that?
They guaranteed admissions for people who came out of community colleges with at least a 2.0, right?
Yeah.
And on the other end, they built more campuses.
Well, that's the thing. You got to build more Harvards, and actually, Harvard is doing that. They're building more into this uh, adjacent town, Alston, which is right next to Cambridge, across the river, actually. And so Harvard is eating up more of Boston, the Boston suburbs, And I think that's the only way you're going to get out of, because you're still going to have legal discrimination, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you can discriminate legally.
sure. I mean, okay, you can't if you have
Oh, who's that? Who's that? Okay.
if you have a
Yeah.
if you have a rapidly uh, communicated disease,
Hmm.
you can't get in the swimming pool. I mean, that's discrimination. You
Right.
know,
Okay.
you got, you
Okay.
got
We're not going to let disease people into Harvard. Is that?
people with athlete's foot. Nope,
Yeah.
no
Oh,
way, no
that's
way,
right.
man.
Very, very common. Very common. No,
Yeah,
but I looked at that graph, and as much as you hate that graph in the Harvard Crimson, uh, and I saw the number of applicants, and I say that's the problem. Too many people applying,
yeah.
and people should be applying elsewhere. You want to solve the discrimination problem
That's
at
that's
Harvard?
where I'm at. My question has always been, why you want to go there?
Yeah,
That's
it's like
that's that's my. They
go
want the
somewhere else.
label, man. They want the label. It's like people who could afford to buy. What were those? What were those? What was that jacket company that had the short collar and with a racing belt inside the collar, right? I forgot what the name of
Uh,
that company was. But
there,
remember Jordan? Okay, how about Jordache jeans
George
from the
has,
disco era, right?
yeah, yeah.
Everybody wanted to wear Jordache. You know, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to pay 5 times more for Gloria Vanderbilt freaking jeans,
All
right?
right, all right. How about let's take a more current example, like shoes. Like, why would you pay more for
Some Airs, the newest version of the Airs,
Airs or Skechers?
Jordans. Yeah,
Or well, Skechers aren't that expensive, but
no,
there are some running shoes that are pretty expensive.
yeah,
Uh,
oh yeah, lots.
yeah,
There are
and
lots of running shoes.
anyway, but yeah, yeah, it is a label. There's a label, like
Yeah,
a, a, a Louis.
b-ball, b-ball, round ball and soccer. There are shoes, with certain athletes' names on them and all the rest of that kind of stuff, right? And people people get jumped on the street. Sometimes kids get killed, right, just for their shoes.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, I just think that all right. This was in the New York Times um, on Monday. They had an interactive thing where you put down the school you want to go to, oh no, you put down the values, and it's based on things like the issues were like the ability to increase your income,
Okay,
like mobility. So that was one issue. Um, High earnings, median income 10 years after attendance, or economic mobility. So those, I think, okay, slide those all the way to the max, right? And then low sticker price, and then low net price of school, I put in the middle because I figure that shouldn't deter you from going to school. A school will have financial aid. You should have some savings, or you should have a way to go to school that if you're good enough, the school will want to pay for you to go there. So I put that in the middle. Now, the next group was academic profile, which I pushed to the max. You want a good school. Athletics, I put in the middle because I don't
yeah.
care what jock school. And then the final four uh, areas were party scene, which I said, oh yeah, let's go for parties. Campus safety. Okay,
Did you
let's.
max it? You maxed party?
Yeah, I max party, and I max because there's some people who like the social scene, and then I max campus safety, and then the last two were racially diverse and economically diverse. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, you gotta max racially diverse. You don't want to be the only Filipino in the room.
Says the young brown man.
Yeah, right. And I max economically diverse because I don't want to be the only poor person there. So those are my priorities. And then here was the rankings that the New York Times database spit out. At number 7, they said I should go to the University of Florida.
I was going to say, you know what's going to happen, man? Florida and Southern California are going to come up.
Well, all right. Number 6, they said I should go to New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 5, I should go to City College or City University, New York, John Jay College, Criminal Justice.
Yeah, CUNY is a good school.
Yeah. Number 4, I should go to Stony Brook, the state system of New York. Number 3, University of California, Irvine.
Yep.
That's where the Asians who seek value. That's where they go now.
Yep. Well, that's been true for a long time.
It has been true. Number 2, the number 2 school was. I bet you can't guess the number 2 school for me.
Okay. How about Chicago?
CUNY Bernard Baruch College.
Wow, Baruch.
Baruch, which has the Asian dorm
Yeah.
frat problem.
Yep.
And number 1, the number 1 school for the values that I outlined, University of California, Los Angeles.
Yeah. I was gonna say Florida and UC and Southern California, man. But only Florida only came up once. There's actually some good universities in Florida.
Yes, I know. All right, now look here. Here are here's where the UC's finished. 30 at number 855, UC Merced. At number 3 for me. At number 331, UC Santa Cruz. At number 205, UC Berkeley.
Huh.
Finishing above UC Berkeley was Dominican University in California. I think that's Dominican College, the old Dominican College, I think.
In Marin, right?
Yeah, if I'm not, or San Mateo, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Where else? I got to look. And then Dominican University of California. I think that's in San Mateo County. Number 48, University of California, San Diego. Number 43, University of California, Santa Barbara. And number 39, UC Riverside.
Mhm.
So all of those were ahead of places like, or those were the top UCs. But those were, let's see. And then also among my ratings, number 29, Cal State Bakersfield.
So well, kind of SoCal.
Yeah, but that's Kevin McCarthy's alma mater,
You.
Cal State Bakersfield. And number 29 was higher than Stanford University.
Whoa.
At 33. So now you ask, and where did this esteemed Harvard show up?
Yeah.
Number 238. Based on the input that I
put in there.
put in, number 238. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you want to go to Harvard, your question, why? And be discriminated against and have no grounds to sue them? I mean, I don't think that the Asians here have grounds to sue them, but there they are. They're probably going to win and reverse things.
Why? Well, let's clarify for now. Why do you think they're going to win?
I think they're going to win because, as I pointed out in my ALDEF column last Monday, I think it's clear you don't need the Harvard Filipino joke to cast aspersions on what the institution was thinking when they were, because it's really irrelevant, the joke. But there are people who believe that the joke indicates that something's funny with Harvard's admissions policy. But what the biggest thing that's going to deep six affirmative action is the 6 members of the Supreme Court. That's all there is, and they're anti affirmative action. They're pro conservative, and I think they are not going to look at this in a nuanced way to indicate that or to see that there is no discrimination.
Yeah, so affirmative action is discriminatory. That's essentially the argument being made by the plaintiffs, and you're saying that the majority of the Supreme Court is going to agree with that.
Right.
The fundamental issue with affirmative action programs is they are discriminatory, and who is harmed?
Right. And
And so, the reason the Chinese are getting a lot of support is because white people think it's going to benefit them.
right.
Okay.
And I think right now, I mean, if you look at the Harvard numbers now, it's funny. Asians aren't hurt. Uh,
No, no.
but the blacks are they've sort of their numbers in the Harvard this week's Harvard admits stayed the same around 15, 16. What is it, the Latino group is about 13. They've kind of stayed the same, but I just really think that
That's a substantial improvement though for Latinos. Not necessarily in the last couple of years, but definitely over the last 10 years. That's
yeah, I think affirmative action has benefited those two groups, even though the numbers are may not seem so great. Um, I know that the school is actively trying to improve those numbers, but I think what's going to happen is they're going to end up admitting a lot more Asian Americans because people are going to say, "Look, you got all these straight A kids. How can you not let them in? They don't get it. They see it as discrimination. They got this suit, and they were buoyed by the logic of the whites who think it's going to help them, and it is because I just think it's going to maintain. Um, well, you say it's going to go down, but I think it's going to maintain their levels.
okay.
But I don't know. I think if you really want to solve what's going on at Harvard, you got to you got to stop people who have no business attending there from applying. I, I mean,
It would really be interesting, you know, it would really be interesting. My recollection from the 70s was that because of the Watergate issue, there was a huge demand. I mean, there was a sudden like doubling of interest in going to law school. So
oh yeah,
that while there were 6,000 applicants in my year for 74, it suddenly jumped to 10,000 applicants for 300 first year positions, man.
mm,
10,000 applicants. And, you can understand that the political and legal circumstances of the times would help to generate that. But, that made it really terrible for most law schools because they all started having this rush of applicants, and this then and they actually started bragging about it on the Supreme Court.
mm,
On the first day, we had a rally session, and everybody had to show up in this really small cafeteria and second floor mezzanine area of the campus, right? And guess who walks out onto the stage to tell us how smart we were, and how privileged and all that shit. It
yeah.
was the brand new appointee by Richard Nixon
Ah,
to the Supreme Court of the United States, who would later become the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Rehnquist.
That's exactly right.
Rehnquist. Wow.
And we all kind of looked at each other, and all he did was say, "Well, you are now part of the 1.3% of all college graduates, right? By being, at Hastings,
I'd be
So
there. Yeah. Well, I just think, how do you keep people from applying? How do you say, look, um, I,
you know what I was going to finish up with
yeah.
that only 5,000 of the people from of the 10,000 were actually qualified
Ah,
by minimal standards. By minimal standards. So your question is, of those 60,000, how many of them are at least minimally qualified?
we don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, maybe they
They
know.
don't disclose that to us. They don't tell us how many, but that's the issue. You got to have a minimal qualification standard, and then you measure everybody by that and say, okay, if you're above this line, you got a chance. All right. If you're
So,
below the line, forget it.
so
Go somewhere
maybe
else.
what we got going here is we're kind of coming up because I don't think they can end affirmative action as we know it, but they can't end some kind of admissions process. Some kind of new process is going to be evolved or is going to happen, and it could be a kind of affirmative action where maybe they go colorblind and not consider
Economic.
race. Yeah.
Remember they were talking about doing an economic standard.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that that could be okay, but uh, it may be more balanced than. I mean, they've always talked about class, not race.
Yeah.
But then, are you going to get as many Asians as you want? Or are you going to get as many? Is it going to be poor whites who get the advantage as
Well,
opposed to
that's why I was saying that the Asian count could go down. It wasn't because there's not going to be affirmative action, or it's going to be wide open, and the most qualified people are going to be Asian. My my feeling is they're going to come up with a criteria that tries to favor whites again.
right?
And even if they try to be fair and they don't come up with a criteria that favors whites, if they come across with a criteria that, let's say, an idealized American, right? An idealized American. Well, how do you want them to think? What kind of experiences do you want them to have while they're in undergrad and graduate school?
Mm.
So that they come out and contribute to the society in really important and positive ways, right? So you come up with a criteria like that, and you can do it. It's possible to be able to do it. It's the equivalent of, remember those processes that more recently that came up on what profession do you want to be in, and or what kind of things do you really like, and then they help you try and find a career path, right? All that kind of stuff. What are you really interested in, or what really motivates you, and gets you excited about doing something out there in society, all that kind of stuff. It's the equivalent of that. You could come up with an idealized American graduate from Harvard or Stanford or anywhere, and say, what kind of person do they want to be?
But then isn't this social engineering, Dan?
Yeah, but it's always been happening, man.
Yeah,
You
it's all.
know,
Yeah,
what? Yeah, what is legacy?
well, I mean that's always been out there as a counterpoint to people say, hey, look, we're trying to create a perfect community. We're trying to create a perfect student body, like you said, this idealized student. But I don't know. It's always gonna have problems if they don't admit enough white people.
Yeah, yep, that's right.
I mean, because the whites are using the Asians here
Yep,
uh, to stop the Asian growth, maybe.
and the Asians are doing it, and they're feeling wonderful about it. You
Yeah,
know,
and
there was a oh, when the three members of the school board, one of the issues that you really feel strongly about, right, were recalled.
right.
And I agree with you, that the motivations were not uh, solid. They weren't principled.
Mm.
Uh, a colleague, I guess I should say former, for me, they're former colleague because I'm emeritus now, but a person in the political science department of Asian ancestry was reported in the San Francisco Chronicle as having said, "This is a demonstration of the Chinese American political muscle."
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
A friend of mine said that.
and you know this guy, this
Yeah,
particular person.
yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to him in about 10 years, but yeah, I know.
and he was described as a lecturer in the political science department at
Right.
SF State. And my question to him would have been, well, how much was race and racial discrimination and forms of cultural discrimination? How much of that was part of the exercise of political muscle by the Chinese American community?
I mean, the Chinese is
Yes,
racist
yes.
toward
What's
other.
their motivation? And when people got really upset with what the African American member of the school board
Allison
said
Collins.
when Allison, yeah, when Collins said statements about what was motivating Chinese, right? That they were, and a lot of people said, well, actually, she's describing something that is true of Chinese American motivation, Chinese American attitudes, and she it could easily be interpreted her criticism could easily be interpreted as saying that Chinese were racist.
Right.
You know, Chinese Americans were racist, and uh, and then the Chinese Americans said that's racist.
Oh yeah, it
Right?
was racist to point out the
That
racism.
for her to accuse Chinese Americans of being racist.
Well, see, the people the argument just sort of fizzles out, and the logic disappears when people just start calling each other names. But you're right. I mean, I hadn't considered the Chinese American racism in saying we're flexing our muscles. Well, how much of that flex
Yeah,
is a kind of a racist?
and I was getting it. I was getting it on campus. I was still teaching at the time, and people were arguing. You know, my younger son was bringing me all kinds. I said, if you see anything on social media, let me know. And so he sent me a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
that ranged from um, ignoring the possibility that there's racism or forms of cultural prejudice, right,
Mm.
in the Chinese American community. And then he showed me examples of how Chinese American tours through Chinatown were full of racism,
Mm.
right, and specifically anti-black racism, because
Ah,
they had murals,
yeah. Oh,
and
you're
they would
talking about the people who are actually leading the tours,
yes,
Chinese.
yes,
Ah, interesting.
yes.
I just think that I don't. When I think of the Harvard case, it's so confusing because I still think Asian Americans are being used here,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's also confusing because Asian Americans are almost, if not 25, if not 30% of Harvard's undergraduate class. They're they're at least 25%. They're nearly a quarter of the student body at Harvard is Asian, and we are punching above our weight at 6-7%. We are gobbling up the resources at Harvard,
It'd
and
be interesting. The other thing that wasn't in that article is what majors are they picking? And I didn't
yeah,
see it. I tried to do a really fast run through that article, and I didn't see where the majors are.
yeah. There's a lot of It's funny. I saw something recently that said there's a lot. It's mixed. It's not just all science as you think, but then
Yeah, yeah.
they break down the sciences. Um, I I just think, and then, like I said, I know you don't like that graph, but when you see that the problem with the acceptance rate is the ease of applying and the number of people who maybe shouldn't have been there and in the first place. I think if you wouldn't see this sort of thing if the acceptance rate or if applications were closer to 20,000 or 15,000. I mean, they're now 55 and 60,000 right now, but if they're like they were 20 years ago, I mean, I it's hard to explain. More people just have discovered Harvard. More people think that, oh, I got a shot. I might as well apply. It's easy. This common app. It's hard. It's easy to apply. I'll take my chances.
Like I said, we have to have the data. Yeah, I would be curious about the data. Why do the people think that they have a shot? I mean, are they really all that qualified? and because that's been true in terms of how you can estimate your likelihood of being accepted to a UC system school. I mean, that's the way it's been.
Well, but if it's all about the number of applications, and you want to, you know, and the acceptance rate has actually gone down. It's like the lowest, second lowest ever. I mean, the acceptance rate has been as high as 11%. I think when I was applying to Harvard, the acceptance rate was like 9%, and now it's 3.41%, which is like that means we're going to discriminate against a lot more of you.
Yeah, except if the plaintiffs win, we're going to have to come up with new ways
Right, new ways.
that look less discriminatory, but nonetheless
Right,
allow us to be selective.
right. I mean, how can you can't be selective and non-discriminatory, right?
That's it, man.
I mean, really. I mean, that is it. How can you be selective and non-discriminatory at the same time?
Yeah, like I
That's
said,
the crazy.
if you got a socially transmittable disease, man, you can't use the pool, dude.
I this is like this is the crazy thing about the suit. But the Asians have been used, and now
Yeah, but okay. To quote Bill Withers, if it feels this good being used, you just keep on using me.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if they're going to be happy in the end. In the end, the happiest are going to be the people who use that New York Times app and figure out, well, what are my values, and let me go to the school that best reflects my values.
There you go. I just don't think that people are looking for diversity that much. I really don't. I
Uh,
think I think principled people, people who want to once again answer more closely to an idealized, American, regardless of race, regardless of class, gender, sexuality, etc. He's just kind of person that we really like. See, the bad part is that there's a lot of Americans who say I don't know if I want to pay for my kid to go to college
yeah, right,
because yeah, one, it costs too damn much, which is legitimate. That's a legitimate concern.
right. And
And
now,
then the people on the right say, and then they turn liberal.
right, and then, well, so
So being intelligent and making informed decisions, man, that's bad. That's you. That makes you a liberal.
yeah,
Damn! How
right,
dare you contradict whatever it is I believe in?
yeah, and in the end, why we pick a school is I want to wear Air Jordans, not those, not those old funky Converse. I don't want to wear those Converse high
And
tops.
I like the school colors.
Well, notice on my values, I didn't put athletics. I didn't.
Yeah, right. I
That,
like the
like
school
if my
colors.
team plays in the Final Four, I don't care. Maybe they'll make this sweet 32, or
Oh man, one of my colleagues. He was actually an associate provost. I think that was his highest rank.
yeah,
He was had been a vice president of faculty affairs too, I think. But anyway, he's a nice guy.
yeah.
But he was from Princeton, and
Oh,
I
so
said,
he was probably
"Yeah."
fooling himself this past.
Oh God, I said, God, do I have to sit next to you, man,
Well, look, they had
on
a nice run.
graduation day? Because this dude looked like a friggin' pumpkin.
Yeah, well, Princeton Tiger. Hey, look, they were Princeton had a good run, but
Oh
they
yeah, man.
was not like San Diego State.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still in
Huh?
there. They're,
Huh?
they're still in there.
Public freaking school, dude.
Yeah. No, I think it was great. San Diego
What are
State.
you gonna? What, somebody's gonna steal their coach, man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
I
one of the
think
big schools.
I think it's great. San Diego State.
I do too. I mean, that this was an interesting year for the
Yeah,
friggin' yeah. I mean, a lot of the mighty fell early.
and
First round, second round.
yeah, and this is the thing about schools. What if we? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people pick the college they want to go to based on sports, and with the colleges they
Yeah.
see on TV, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
why for colleges, NCAA time, March Madness, the football season, means a lot. I mean, well, that's where the
Yeah.
college
When you're in
their
school,
money.
yeah, it sure does mean a lot.
I mean, but the colleges make their money from football, and Fresno State. I rooting for Fresno. I don't know why would I root for, but I watched every game this year. Fresno
No
State.
kidding.
Yeah, I did. They had a good team. Then they won a bowl game. I think they finished in the top 25.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I watched. Oh, I didn't mention this, but Cal State Stanislaus in Turlock was also in my top 30 of schools.
Wow.
Based on the values that I put in, and it's not based on
It
location.
was in the top 30?
Yeah, Cal State, along with Cal State Santa Barbara, or not Santa Barbara, Cal State Bakersfield. I was surprised these Central Valley schools were
That's
up.
two in the Central Valley, yeah.
So
Well, Turlock's a little further east, kind of.
south, well,
Well, no, I mean, it's
oh,
south, but
east of
yeah, you know,
California or east
yeah,
of Berkeley.
it's toward the Sierras,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Well, Modesto.
yeah, it's right next to Modesto, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, or south, just south of Modesto. I just think that it shows you when you do that thing in the New York Times that if you say, "Give me a school that has these values," you'd be surprised at the kind of schools that would finish above Harvard, and it surprised me. And but will I act on it? No, I'm happier to say I went to Harvard rather than Cal State Turlock.
I'm gonna be off for a second. I have to take this call.
Okay. Hey, listen, Dan. Dan. Oh,
I got to take the call.
I'll just say goodbye to you. Take care, man. Oh, Dan is on the phone. I'll say goodbye to Dan. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you, Dan. We'll see what happens to Donald Trump next week. And now he's frozen. Now you froze on me. Now you're frozen. Oh no, there he goes. Well, an interesting spirited discussion with Professor Daniel Phil Gonzales, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus, Asian American Studies, Filipino American Studies. Boy, that's a lot of title. We got into a lot, but we haven't been doing our show for a while. I mean, we have. I talked to him from New York, but this is the first time back in my closet, and I am so glad to be here. I am. I'm telling you this. I'm thinking about Harvard a lot, coincidentally, because the admissions went out, and if you applied to Harvard and got a rejection, it's weird now because now they just tell you on an app. They say if you got in or didn't. Back when I applied, they actually sent you a big fat letter, which surprised the hell out of me. But like if they're going to reject you, they're not going to send you a big fat letter, right? I mean, if they sent you a big fat letter and you think they're going to reject you, you turn to my father and say, "Hey, Dad, the Harvard sent me this big fat letter. I think it contains the arsenic that they want me to ingest because I am worthless and didn't get in." But no, it's like practically the diploma they send you. I mean, I don't know if you in my generation applied, but it's this huge thing. It looks like a damn diploma. Suitable for framing, it is. Anyway. But I think Dan's right. I think as much as I dislike Harvard in some ways, I like it too. And I made some nice friendships. Not many, but some. Not many, but actually more subsequent to Harvard because now we have something in common. We have something to hate in common. Or not hate, but just we have an object that we dislike. And then we come together and say, we don't really dislike it that much. It's sort of nice, wear this, it's like carry around this Louis Vuitton bag with the LV on it. and you know it's real versus the others who have like fake LV bags. Harvard. Anyway, for those of you who applied and didn't get in, my condolences. But look, you're not dead. Check out that New York Times value thing on the website, interactive, and find out all the other schools that are just as good. I mean, look at the people who are in the news. Donald Trump, where did he go to school? Where did Donald Trump go to school? Donald Trump went to Fordham and to Penn. And then who knows how much he really went to school there? I mean, he could say, I went to Wharton. Hey, here's Daniel Phil Gonzales back again.
I'm sorry. It was a call from my mechanic. We brought one of the cars in for repairs, and
this is important. I always say it's good to disrupt the Emil Amok's Takeout for the practical purposes of fixing your car. That's good. That's good.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't a Friday, because I had to know whether or not they were going to hold the car for the weekend.
You got to get that car. Look, because then you'd have to walk those hills in San Francisco. That'd be terrible.
Well, we kind of welcome the walk as long as it's not too long and not too steep.
Now, that's the thing about New York. That's the thing about
it's flat as hell.
And you walk. Well, actually, I found some bumpy parts.
Where?
Well, there's some like, oh, I'm going up now. I feel it in my legs. There are a couple places where like suddenly you're like, oh, this isn't totally flat. What happened here? As you go up north in the borough and
yeah.
Some places around the like the mid 40s, in midtown, and
we stay on the west side in the mid 40s.
Yeah. Oh, like
we have a favorite kind of cool little hotel, boutique hotel right up there, and it's really great for the evening because it's close to the restaurants and also the food stands, man.
Yeah,
the halal guys and everything,
And the shows, you're near the shows.
Yeah, the shows are there. Yeah,
you're near the Times Square's down there, and also, look, here's the thing. I liked New York because this time around, because I wasn't a tourist, and I didn't do anything touristy. I stayed in my little box, which was a glorified closet, which is why it kind of felt like home, because I'm in my closet now, and you put a kitchen in here and a bathroom, and this could be a New York apartment that costs like $2,500 a month. Could be. Oh, and actually, my closet could be a New York apartment that costs about $1,800 a month.
Wow.
I mean, but it's, I know, but believe me, when I was sleeping, and like I was like just 2 floors up, right on the street level, I heard everything, and I said, God, I mean, this apartment would go for $2,500 a month, and I'm just a little better than homeless. I'm just because I hear everything. I hear the people walking up and down the street. I hear the sirens, and that's a New York experience. Although when I stayed at my sister's house out there in Dan White Heights in San Francisco, not too long ago, but I slept on her couch, and I swear I heard all these sirens. Hey, look, I froze. You see that?
Yeah, you froze.
I froze.
I'm still moving.
Yeah, you're moving, but I'm frozen. I don't know why. Well, I think it means it's time to go. It's time to go.
It
So
certainly is. I mean, I just wanted to apologize for having to break it up like that. But
oh no, and then breaking up the flow I was in the show to talk about your car, which I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
But look, all right, Dan, I'll talk with you off camera, but thank you very much. And there he goes, Daniel Phil Gonzales, my friend, and I remain frozen. Look at me, I'm frozen. And look, if I take myself and put myself back on, I am still frozen. So I will say goodbye. I have that sort of like look of regret. I'm not regretful. I'm not regretful. And not like Donald Trump. Uh, what did he really do? Right? I mean, he had an extramarital affair with people he paid money to, and then he tried to hide the fact that he paid money to them because they were willing participants. I don't know. He wanted the tax break. I don't know. I don't know. Hey, Emil Guillermo here. Thanks for tuning in, Emil Amok's Takeout. Because I'm not live, you can't see me, but you can hear me. I'm going to say so long. Regular listeners know that I like to meditate. It helps. It helps. Staying in the moment. The loving kindness meditation, my favorite. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. That's how it goes. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be... God, I forgot the third one. May you be glorious. And may you live with ease. That's always my favorite. Ease. We want it easy, not hard. Easy. Emil Guillermo here. Catch my columns on ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. aldef.org/blog. Check other things on amok.com. Till next time, I mean this. Mahal Kita.